Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Get ready to find your free will from your roots in the stars.
Hello, I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, and tonight is February 8th, and we have a replay, or it's actually a repeat performance, I might say, on Thursday at 6 to 7 a.m. on the 13th this month. And tonight, we're still in the archetype of Aquarius, and the title tonight is Who's in Charge? In that sense, we're between two routine events, and that's our moon that makes a consistent change. It's our closest planetary orbit around the Earth, or you might say in the solar system, and every 2.5 days it goes through a sign. And it continues in its 29-day cycle to have what we call a new moon and a full moon. The Aquarius New Moon was on the 24th of April. Not April, my goodness. Let's go back to where we're at. We're in January. And it was at, let me think here. Okay, sorry about all this pause here, but I'm looking at my notes. It was at 4:42, and that's here on the Pacific Coast. And in the East Coast, it was 1:42 in the morning. And that was on the 24th of January, which happened to be, and this is what I was thinking at the same time, the Chinese New Year for introducing the year of the metal rat. And the astrology of West and East don't exactly correlate, but looking at energies a little bit here and there and putting it together, it's that just to remind ourselves, because we did have a particular event on the 24th with Ray Sapp that you can always check on the archives at Talk Cosmos or at podcast1.com. And it was that the year of the rat is the new beginnings, because the rat is the first of that 12-month cycle, and the rat actually corresponds to Capricorn, which again relates to Western astrology that we're really focused on, because just the last eclipse was with the nodes, which is Capricorn and Cancer. Now, for you non-astrologers, maybe you're saying, that's a lot of detail, but we are trying to draw a picture because there's energies involved, and it's all about energy. And the point being that the stellium, and that's anywhere from 3 planets, and at this point we had 6 planets, along with the South Node and Ceres, which is an asteroid, which, if you start counting everything, was over 6, 7. It was an enormous amount of energy, and particularly with 2 outer planets, and that was Saturn and Pluto, that has been long awaited, that they actually met at the same point, meaning they really were strongly connected. And essentially this energy is one that we are, you could say, purging from our psyches collectively. It's in various fashions, the structure and the past traditions. It's a long, ongoing cycle. And I bring it up because the Aquarius New Moon with the rat instigated an idea that things might begin in a fresh way. Well, of course, whenever you're letting go of something, something new comes up. So that's my long story here. Thank you for listening. And we're also involved with the full moon, which is happening tomorrow on the 9th. And that will be at 11:33 p.m. on the Pacific. And that's actually tonight on the 8th. Thank you. I just got a little note here. Or tomorrow, early in the morning at 2:33 Eastern Time. And you can go to Talk Cosmos and look at the event. And I have this information there. So if you get lost, if you don't have an ephemeris or some way, there's all kinds of ways to check this information. But just to let you know, that's always a reference point. So, in other words, what is this? We will find this out in just a moment, because we are going to have the Aquarius Moonbeam team tonight.
Relating to the sun and moon's energies, including the planets and the entire cosmos for the month's systematic 2-week intervals of the new moon and full moon, plus the annual 4 to 5 eclipses, this is your Moonbeam team.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, Certified Astrologer, Sacred Healing Counselor, Taroist, and Numerologist, providing individual consultations, teaching and tutoring internationally, co-author of Gateways to Change, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life, currently facilitating workshops in Marysville and Camino Island, Washington.
And I'm Sara Stromley, a Cranial-Sacral Therapist and founder of Brain Body Therapy in Kirkland, Washington. I'm an evolutionary astrologer that incorporates different forms of horary, location mapping, and medical astrology into my practice. I enjoy uncovering flower and mineral frequencies that also support the mind-body coherence that aid in the healing journey.
And as Albert Einstein said, energy is never destroyed. Energy only changes. And so we begin. And actually, tonight, each one of us is going to present just a certain perspective that we think this month incorporates. And I'll start. And to me, the new moon on the 24th of January was tension. And we're moving into the full moon of what we might call suspension. Suspended actions, kind of a wait and see as we determine what do we really value? How do we fit in to show our special, unique parts into a new group? Okay, and Liz.
Well, I see that it's asking us to make changes and do our transformation, and that tension, if we're not doing it, is really pushing us. And it's transformation with self and relationships and groups.
And
Sarah, thank you. Sorry.
The lunar energies of the culmination of Leo this week and the seeding of Aquarius in a couple weeks, as it always does this time of year. There's an emphasis on what can change to allow the heart to have its fullest expression, creativity, and reawakening.
My goodness, it seems like a potent time, but then every month is potent. But truly, I think the fact that Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, that's an outer planet for those folks, and it is one that breaks the rhythms and can create chaos in a sense. I know I've certainly been feeling the chaos myself in a bit. Not that that's a negative, it's just a factor, and yet we fathom it and go through it. But when you say creative, it's a lot of good energy.
Yes, it is. It's great. And so I want to go to the full moon in Leo. Is that okay?
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
So I see that there's an emphasis on our home and public life, and that it will require us to do some rebalancing of whatever that might be for us individually, and also some balancing of self and making sure that we're doing self-care and taking care of others with boundaries.
That's a full spectrum. That really does sound appropriate when you think of rebalancing. And good point bringing in, because Venus, of course, it rules that Taurus of Uranus, wants us to think of our survival, our self, our what matters.
And looking at the astrology chart, I see that there's like to do the work behind the scenes. So sometimes it's not publicized. Maybe you're not starting your new project right now. You're finishing up some stuff, or you could be doing research for your new projects. People may feel like wanting to stay in their comfort zone a little bit more, staying at home more, not going out with groups, but going within more and regrouping and resting and nesting and getting ready for spring.
Well, we will go back to the new moon, folks, but because right now it is a development from that new moon, and it's true that with this full moon, looking at the chart, there's a few significant energies, planetary energies, that are singular, as we call it, that aren't really operating in connection with the other solar planets. One is Uranus and the other is Venus. In other words, the ruler of each. It's like, okay, they're sitting there and they have their own needs. So it would be really a time to connect with that rather than the Mars. And Mars is the energy of action, is complementing, you might say, because of its trine. Would you?
Yes.
That's what you're thinking? Yeah.
Well, and most of the planets are in the first 6 houses with a couple of planets in the 7th house, pretty much. So it's like that inner work. That's where I was getting that from. And it's emphasizing also writing, journaling, communication, siblings, short trips are highlighted, and lots of relationship changes and adjustments. And I would suggest people to look back 6 months to the new moon in Leo that occurred on July 31st in 2019. What did you wish or desire at that time? Has it come to pass? Have you made progress towards your intention? Or do you no longer desire what you were wanting? It might be time to just release it and let something else come in.
Boy, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's actually a supermoon that's occurring, and it's perigee, so it's closest to the Earth. And so to me, this Leo full moon is louder and prouder, and the emotional tides can be a little bit bolder, especially with this trine to Mars. So more lumens for creative, romantic, and dramatic self-expression.
Mm.
And Venus having just moved into the fiery sign of Aries, I encourage you to not pass up opportunities for inspired, spontaneous invitations. So being playful and complimentary can go a lot further right now.
Well, that Venus energy right now, if I'm looking at is so close to the beginning of everything. I mean, we call it the Aries point. It's actually 0, but it's 0, 1. I mean, it's very first, second degree of Aries. So all these new beginnings in that sense, and especially with its strong connection to Chiron, which is the wounded healer, which is always a tremendous energy to try to fathom. But I think if we're really exploring, which it wants to do, right? I mean, Aries explores a lot. It's pioneer of its own self going forward. It wants to reinvent. But it's a curious thing, because here we are sitting on the not on the fence, but we're like in this moment of chaos of thinking of, I'm just drawing together partly of what I see and what I'm experiencing and also seeing in the world. I mean, seeing on the page the whole 9 yards. But it's a complexity of it, because there's a lot, not just ourselves, but everybody, our families. And there's so much energy of the families right now, too,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and our whole energy system, you know, childhood and different methods, whether, anyway. That, in other words, of healing, I'm thinking of that chironic energy that is wanting to, through service would be great. I don't know if we have actions right now to promote that, or if it's really just sort of in the makings. Maybe that's what we're contemplating.
Well, and Aries is quite the trailblazer, so perhaps trying something that you haven't tried before, or and doing some research for yourself to explore.
Self-care. That's excellent. That goes along with the Venus theme of self.
And it's right there next to Chiron, so it's beautiful.
Yes. I think, Sarah, you had quite a bit you were going to talk about the new moon. Did I have that correct about?
Well, I just at first I kind of want to go a little bit before that, because this time of year tends to bring up a lot of this Valentine's Day saga that comes up for people, unless you're one of the lucky ones that has, it's just reveling in romantic bliss right now. There's, it can be an intensifying of loneliness and grief, or those that may have felt abandonment and loss of love, with just this heavy emphasis in advertising on all these projections and expectations of what the expression of love is supposed to be for them. And, there's also can be resentment of the expectations of romantic gestures for those that are uncoupled or unhappily coupled, or felt thwarted or betrayed by an idealized love.
It has often been. Go ahead. Did I jump in?
But
Go ahead.
But there's also the Northern Hemisphere. I think part of how this comes up, and how many pagan festivals that have kind of been overlaid with these stories of Saint Valentine and everything. There's kind of this icy crust that wants to break through, with the crocuses coming through. Animals are starting to go into rut, and mating tends to start to occur at this time. It's like a Marvin Gaye song, "Let's Get It On," that's playing out. So there can be a bit of this collective sexual frustration as well.
That's very intriguing to bring in the fact of a hibernation. I really, that's amazing. Because, as I was going to say just prior to that, which the whole focus of the detachment of Aquarius, which is a necessary energy for this sign that is very mental and of groups, but looks at it to understand things from a distance.
And needs that independence, too.
Yeah, good point. And the freedom, the ultimate freedom of that energy. But then we have this intense romantic, the polarity of it, with Leo saying it's romance and it's love of its passionate union. And so here we have the strongest festival, we might say, in modern times, for that energy, but in this very not disenchanted, but detached energy time. So it is true. It can bring what you had said earlier, I think at one time, grief, or understandably, particularly because we are really letting go right now of the past, that is in the sense of what our attachments are with values and our place in it.
Or where we've over-romanticized something.
And it could be also just with the whole fact of the marketing, of the commercial view of life that sometimes gets very impersonal.
Yes. And
it's a retail holiday.
I always laugh because I didn't consult an astrologer to pick Valentine's Day.
Yeah, when could it have been? Maybe during Taurus.
Exactly. And then in the chart in the 5th house, Venus is in the 5th house, so maybe buying yourself flowers, or drawing a bath and putting some rose oil, or
treating yourself to a massage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's like doing it yourself, because Aries would be doing it by yourself, so romance yourself.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at the other energies all in that, and this is on the Pacific coast here. These are the energies, but that's where we are from, and astrologers, just for the general conversation for those others, it is from that viewpoint I mean, it can be anywhere, but from this viewpoint, and that's how it's relating out. So we have these other energies of Mercury and Lilith and Neptune all in Pisces, meaning it is very, I'm just thinking of your sense of indulging. It's like looking at the sense of nature of the pure, unadulterated passion of nature, of how to connect to that real essence of ourself without the boundaries of.
Yeah, getting in touch with that vitality and potency within us, within ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would suggest that you go out tonight or even look out now, because here in Seattle it's dark, and I'm sure you can see the moon rising from the east.
Yeah, and Venus, I think, is still visible on the western horizon. And Mercury is making a rare appearance there, too.
Oh, beautiful. I'd love to think of that. And, of course, Mercury will be going retrograde, as we'd brought up, later. So on the 16th, I think.
Yes.
So now you have what? Maybe less than a week to get out there. Yes, just a week to really see it before it
Disappears.
Yes, disappears. Well, full moons have quite a reputation, but this one, because it's in Leo, really does bring back the sense, because it's always in the opposite sign of the month, and the sun is in Aquarius all this month, and so the moon, because of its position, is as it's reflecting fully the light of the sun, is in the opposite sign, which is Leo. But then that does, as a rulership, go back to the sun. So it really is about our ego and our emotions and synthesizing our uniqueness. You know, how we can participate in life. Like, what exactly do I need to shift my perspective about? That is perhaps a question that we'll be asking for a long time, because I was thinking of Uranus and Taurus, but still right now it's all relevant to, well, not just the sun, but also because Mars is in Sag, which is that perspective, belief systems.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of getting along with this disruptive energy of Uranus, yes?
Yes, exactly. That's great.
Yeah. Well, last night, now, if I can just tie this together, East West Books is a wonderful location here in Seattle, Washington, right in the heart of Seattle, actually. And they're looking for a new location. But if any of you here in Seattle are thinking, just get in touch with them. They would love to do that. But they have people from the region and outside the region continually coming in. And last night I was so glad to go to an event that Dougal Fraser and Raleigh Valentine joined. And they're both psychic. Dougal Fraser is a color energy coach. I took a good class with him and became certified and was thrilled to see him in person again. And Raleigh Valentine creates tarot decks, in angels, and they were just most remarkable. And one person asked a question, or they did a few spontaneous readings for people, and they both applied their own perspectives, with the color energy and then also with the angel cards. But this really related to, I think, the energies now that we're talking about, and that's the Aquarian and sun and the Leo full moon. Because this person was asking their purpose, as many of us have contemplated. And Dougal Fraser was commenting that really purpose, so often, and I'll just paraphrase as I'm thinking about it, but so often we think of it as having to be associated with our career. And certainly with all this Capricornian energies, that's really how we often think, like, what's our success? How is it being measured? And in time reference and goals and all of these exhibited in the external world. But actually, as he was saying, we have such a multifaceted involvements, with our relationships. And really, when you look at Uranus in Taurus, which has to do about ourself and our values and what we possess, our talents and all of this, and our survival as life, is and also with Venus being which rules Libra, of many relationships. We have many relationships. We have business, we have partnerships, we have friendships, we have associates, on and on and on. And we can have that purpose and function in many ways. It doesn't need to necessarily be attached to some kind of a business relationship, which greatly relieved this particular person. In fact, the entire room sort of gave a big sigh of relief. And it's very exciting, too, to think of that, I think, about to honor thyself, the Leo wants to, and to give ourselves that recognition and realize that we can perform a lot of function and
service.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in many capacities, and that. Well, we will return in just a moment. We have our short announcements, and this is Talk Cosmos with Liz Muschett and Sara Stromley, the Moonbeam team, on February 8th, repeating on the 13th. Thank you.
Do you have a question or something to contribute for today's Talk Cosmos program? If you're listening to the live show on Saturday, the phone lines are now open until 6:45 Pacific. Give us a call at 888-298-5569 to either join us on the air or we can write it down for you. Once again, that's 888-298-5569.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Aquarius, ruled modernly by Uranus and Saturn in traditional astrology by the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on governing structures through both man-made and universal laws, Aquarius breaks established patterns, permitting the energy of freedom, just as its ruling planet Uranus spins on its side and orbits backwards. As a fixed air sign represented by the water bearer pouring the spirit of cosmic energy, Aquarius seeks to find like-minded, intuitively aligned souls to connect in social groups for the elevation and improvement of all.
Hi, this is John Luke. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we discuss the meaningfulness of our roots in the stars and planets.
Need help getting started with self-help? You came to the right place. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hello again. Here we are, Talk Cosmos, and we are going to begin with Liz. You have some workshops that it would be just great to hear about.
Well, I teach 2 monthly astrology reviews in Marysville, one on the first Friday of the month and one on the last Wednesday of the month. I have a class on the ABCs of astrology, and that's putting it all together on February 22nd. You can find my schedule on my website, alightpath.com. You'll find also my monthly tarot sessions, the intuitive development class I do, and numerology classes. So that's what I've kind of got going on right now. So,
well, that's so super. Marysville isn't that far away. And the fact that there's this ongoing astrology where I think you present each person with their own chart.
yes.
And then you really discuss what's going on. So that's a pretty personal opportunity. And then if people want to learn more about astrology, oh boy, you only do that a few times. So that'll be February 22nd. So everybody, you can check that out. And if it's lizmuschett.com, and if you have trouble with spelling, just go to Talk Cosmos, because we have the guest contact information for every guest we've ever had, and they have their how to get a hold of them. So that would be super. And Sara, I think because you do your botanical wonder, I know you're known as the mad alchemist, which we love, and you were preparing things for the following new moon, but I'm not quite sure when we'll have our next event together. So why don't you tell people what they can prepare for after this? Maybe they'll get their time together for, which would be what, Pisces? Is that what we're talking about, or is it Aquarius?
It's the upcoming new moon
In Pisces.
in Aquarius.
No,
Or
the last
Pisces?
one was
Okay.
January 20. It was 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So the next one
yeah,
would
the
be
new moon in Pisces.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, nonetheless,
So-
we'll give a little info. So thanks.
Yeah, because that one's just going to be a little more intense that period of time, and you may feel that kind of building up, leading up to that time. If there's any questions on that, let me know. But there was some flower essences that were speaking to me for this particular time over the next 2 weeks. Monkshood or monk's hood flower essence, also known as wolf's bane or monk's hood, leopard's bane, mouse bane, woman's bane, or devil's helmet. It's this dark flower stack of these. They look like little monks with their hoods, kind of hoodies over their heads. But this flower essence aids with stabilizing after exposure to any traumatic situations or any fright or shocks or that type of thing. But it just helps to balance the emotions, and it gives a clear and calm presence with the ability to perceive situations objectively. And this, the effects on, when there's conflicts of relationship or embarrassment or receiving a bad or shocking piece of news, can be counterbalanced with monkshood's flower essence, which, and this is actually a very poisonous plant, and I always emphasize with any of these flower essences, they are a vibrational, they just have an electrical impulse marked into these, what is spring water. So there's no plant parts in these essences. It just has the signature of this particular flower. If you happen to find one when you're out walking in the woods or something, you can admire
Beware.
it. Yeah, you can admire it. Yeah. So, but just you can even just gaze at the picture of one and kind of resonate with this as well. The gift of this essence is to neutralize the effects of poisonous interactions and the emotions that render the personality to be unable or even incapable of accessing intuition that aids in making wise decisions. So the monk flower is like this indigo color, matching the color of the third eye, which helps to see beyond current circumstances and into possible healing potential. So much like a visualization of being inside of a violet flame that some like to meditate on, it strengthens the auric field. It alleviates fear and providing a better sense of protective, well-balanced boundaries that aids one to feel safe and self-assured and able to see through any situation with a clear ability to receive appropriate guidance and responsiveness.
And that's monk's hood.
Monk's hood. Yeah. Another one that was speaking loudly to me was star jasmine, which actually isn't a jasmine, strangely, but it's a beautiful and fragrant evergreen vine that you can find in garden shops around here, especially in Asia. And it works as a ground cover and it covers walls, but it makes these 5-pointed, beautiful, winding stars that kind of open up. And it smells very fragrant, like a jasmine, and it looks like a jasmine, but that's probably why it inherited the prized jasmine name. But it's known in Chinese medicine as Lo Shi Tang, used in a number of conditions that involve untangling the body. And it works on the heart, the liver, the kidney meridians, and cooling the blood and lowering blood pressure. Star jasmine is a flower essence, works, for the purposes that I use it for, it works on the emotional and personality to better harmonize with society and yet maintain a sense of individuality. And it lends a greater ability to meditate on the big picture and our personal healing journey within that. And it lends a nice mix of an improved sense of self-esteem with a sense of practicality.
Well, thank you so much. Are you finished? Or
there was one more first time.
Okay.
But,
Well, I'll thank you anyway at the moment, because it's really drawing in the energies of nature, which again is going to continue with us for these 7 years. Well, we have not quite 7. I think we've already started a few with Uranus. But yes, okay, the third.
Okay.
Third's a
All
charm. Go ahead.
Selenite is actually a soft calcium sulfate crystal, and it's formed in an evaporative clay beds outside of natural hot springs, and it frequently contains inclusions of both water and gas within them. And even though it's a rock, it's soft and flexible. And these are found in many countries, but my favorite comes from Mexico, that form these long, clear crystals. And its action is that it opens up the upper body energy, much like feeling a refreshing breeze that goes through the forehead and up and out the top of the head. So it supports clearing congestion and stagnation in the etheric and emotional bodies, especially the upper body, allowing a freer flow of communication with the higher self and to lighten the load on what has been heavy to carry. And it allows a communion with the interior awakening and a sense of purpose.
Well, selenite's a wonderful gem. I mean, a stone. I know if you go to, I love rocks and
Yeah, it's
gems.
a little bit like...
So just having it for those people that want to get in touch. I love
Yeah,
this.
that you can wear it in jewelry or just have... It's not that expensive either. You can just get
it's
a nice
very
chunk
reasonable.
of it.
And each of these really relates so much to Aquarius, too. I was just noticing some of that you said, individuality, so that's excellent.
So
Yeah.
do you offer these for sale?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I do.
good.
Yeah, I made one special for you and you and you.
That's right.
So you can enjoy them if you may not need them at all, but it's just nice to have.
And that's brain.
To kind of brain. Yeah, you can just email me at sarah@brainbodytherapy.com.
Yeah.
Brain is like the gray matter between your ears.
Good. Or go to Talk Cosmos again.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, I really find very exciting to get this a conceptual idea of the mineral and flora, the natural world. And again, we have another friend, a good astrologer that it will be coming next month, Madam Simon, and who really looks at Lilith. And of course, Lilith is the lady of get it together with the natural world. And here we have, as we were commenting, I think Lilith and is it Venus is well, a lot of energy. But so that's also part of our whole energy. But how the natural world can speak to us, very important. And it all relates with the energies that we're having. Because right now, the big picture of this Leo moon is saying how to release our attachment to old perceptions. You know, how to get things right in a new light. And letting go, which is not so easy when you have Capricorn that says, it's worked for a long time, which we see politically, whether whatever side of the fence you're on, or on top of the fence, however it goes. I mean, I'm thinking like Humpty Dumpty or well, anyway, we're getting further along here. But the fact is that that wants a status quo. And it could be just at home, your own. It doesn't have to be the United States, but we are a Cancerian country. And so the moon always is a lot of energy for anything of Cancer. But we are up for change and transformation. And essentially that moon is saying, I got to be me. So how can we align? And it could be with more revolutionary-oriented groups. So this kind of energy is just seeking in all its fashions to get us to thinking how we can be a voice in some common, like-minded group. Yes?
Yes, and I want to remind people that the new moon is about building and growing and initiating, and the full moon is about releasing and letting go. Because those are basic principles, but they're really important.
They truly are. We're going to revisit and revisit. It always is good to have this reminder. And particularly, too, like you brought up the fact of last summer, I'm going to start thinking about how many months ago was that? 6 months ago?
Approximately.
It's always about half a year before. What was I thinking and feeling, those dreams, those ideas?
Well, and if one journals, you can go back and kind of look at your journal.
Always
and see,
important.
or even your calendar. A lot of us keep calendars, so were we really busy then, or we weren't as busy?
You can look at your email history too.
Yes,
and get a lot of read on what was there.
Oh my goodness, that's true. We do have measurements now. That's very Capricornian, isn't it? Time and measurements.
Well,
Yes.
and for me, I started my office in Marysville, so it's very appropriate.
It is
Nice.
interesting to see just right immediately among our own connections, all the changes that are happening. It's incredible.
It is. It's just like when it's meant to be, it's like fast forward, pedal to the metal, go.
Well, I wonder though, it with all the activity and apparent chaos it sometimes feels, and I hope I'm not just being personal on that, but I think that is pretty rampant. It almost feels like it's not quite a treadmill, but when is the resolution happening? And that's where I feel like sometimes it is a suspension of we're in a process.
Yes, exactly. And we can review, do we want to continue with what we started 6 months ago? Sometimes we don't. It's too much effort, or...
Yeah. Or on many, many issues, just even more recently of events, but...
Well, and there's so much change coming and transformation for us all to do. And it's like if we've been working on ourselves, maybe it'll be a little easier, but not necessarily. It could be still some more big speed bumps.
And I think, too, with Aquarius, it's such a social archetype. By the time it's this 11th sign in the zodiac, and it's that, and it is above the horizon, so it's with other people. Our world is affected with the events happening to everybody. It's not just our own personal world. Although with the full moon, because it is the moon that's emphasized, it is very personal. So it's like, how are all these events happening to everybody else affecting me? And it's quite a lot. And it does require a new perspective. I think really that is what's being asked for us, to survive on a new system of connecting with ourselves, with the world. And it's a long journey. And I say long journey. I don't want to get people distraught. Oh, my goodness. But, because every month, we have new little plateaus and new stepping stones, you might say. And so that's what we're trying to do, is show, okay, these are the stepping stones. We'll get across the river, or we'll swim a little bit.
Well, and we get comfortable in how things are, and then when it changes, it's like, oh. But
Are we ready? Yeah.
Right. It's like, I don't want to change.
Like your computer breaks. That's just simple. Yes.
Well, that's horrible if your computer
Oh,
breaks.
so many people it has lately, but I think we're past it.
But
Yes, Sarah.
I just think it's a little easier with this full moon to let go of things that are invalidating us with, because that Leo moon has a sense of pride and self-integrity that's vital with with that Mars trine there. It's just saying
Beautiful. I love that. That really brings it home, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't have to get confused with too many issues. It's like, how does it relate to me? And that the validation that our life matters to, it's important. Every life is important. Every life has an expression, and every life can be unique, and we can contribute in some wonderful fashion towards a group or make a group. And I say a group because there is a strong energy of how to cooperate, with the Aquarian energy. It's not just isolation.
Yeah.
And maybe even try a different group than the groups that you've been to. You might be surprised. You might really like it.
Yeah.
Or find out some information that you were seeking. It's like a new experience could be really good.
And that Aquarian and Aries energy, the Aquarian sun and the Venus moving into Aries, and there's that other Chiron and Eris energies. I think it's kind of being fine with striking out on your own, or a heightened willingness to strike out.
Well,
or do things more independently, or things that bring more individual recognition.
I think there is a certain amount, though, of real. Well, we had commented on inner work, which is again and again a theme, and it's always important to really remember it. It starts with our inside, and what we see on the external is a representative of it. But the fact that some of these energies that are talking to the main sun, and which is Aquarius, Uranus, which is all by its, in certain energies by itself, although it, in other words, they're sitting there really contemplating deeply in a sense of their own meditation. What do they need and want and feel? And so it's not necessarily fast forward.
Sometimes,
I'm not so sure that everything is fast forward here.
No, not necessarily. Especially when you're doing the inner work, it's usually not very fast, at least on my experience.
And when Mercury is in Pisces, which isn't, it's more of a sensing and pre-verbal communication that planet stage is in at that point, because Mercury rules our communication, our travel, our mental planet. It's going to be coming into Neptune soon, which makes it even more blurred. And it's disappearing behind the sun next week, isn't it?
Well, it really, in Pisces, it does need to remember, and this is really, when I think about it, goes along with the, Neptune is always like this, and with Lilith, that things are not necessarily controlled, because the cosmos, the greater energies of the whole, the sun rises when it rises, and the moon turns as it turns in the phases. And in other words, what's our control? It's about ourself, and it's not. So we need to work with that spirit and work with those energies, and it can be done in a creative way. But going over to back to this whole energy of Chiron and Venus, because Venus, as one of the primary rulers, really talking to Uranus, it's talking to the sun of what we're attracting, and just to remind us about this theme that we've talked about in various ways of, because it's squaring, as we might say, in tension, our nodal axis of where we're coming from and where we're going to, of our structures, of our authorities, of our traditions, and then our processing and our emotions of our personal self. And it is. So I'd like to kind of hear more thoughts about that whole.
Yeah, Chiron squaring the nodes. It's like where I've been and where I'm going. It's like, what do I want to keep, or do I want to stay where I've been, or do I want to move forward? It's like you have to resolve that to move forward.
And you have to really not get fearful about what you feel like you're incapable of. I think that must be a huge part of this in order to let go, to really understand that we have abilities and the uniqueness, and to just try it. That's what.
Yes. Yeah. Experience some new things. If somebody invites you to something, don't say no first. Think about it, and you try to go if you can. Now, if it's not safe, stay home. But
that's excellent. That's excellent.
But exploring new territory is kind of a theme with that Aries energy.
Well, and both of you are offering that. Liz, you've got your in-person workshops and a class for people that are wanting to learn more about the language, which we're always trying to teach people, but we're not going through the ABCs. We're kind of jumping here and there. And Sara, you're giving them a whole nother introduction of, well, you involve astrology too, but this idea of other energy sources that can communicate with us. A lot like my color when I bring in astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a way to communicate and connect, because that's part of the exploratory part. And really, when I think of the Pisces, it's incorporating everything. There's no boundaries, right?
Exactly. And, for some people, just listening to the radio show on astrology could be a very new thing. So this could be that they're listening to us, and this is opening a new door for them.
Oh, I hope so. Just to be a catalyst is so exciting. It's like, and I just love our ongoing collaboration conversations. In fact, and this is the time to bring up that next week the guest will be Leslie Francis of Edmonton, Alberta in Canada. And Leslie is the author of Llewellyn Sun Sign book, and she has her own workshops and whatnot. And we're going to be talking about new seed germination. And again, it is in Aquarius, and it'll be just before the Mercury retrograde. So there's always food for thought, that is. I speak with a lot of vernacular idioms. I'm realizing this. Let's talk about letting go. I'm really trying to expand myself, because if we are being listened to, and it could be who knows where, not necessarily little old USA, and even if it were, the time zone that maybe I'm accustomed to and picking up with easy idioms may not be communicative. So it's always a matter of language, learning new language.
Well, and astrology isn't a language within itself.
Absolutely. Yeah, the metaphors and symbolism of, as we were saying, energy, because energy never ends. It just reinvents itself, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And the Mercury retrograde starts February 16th and runs to March 9th. And it starts in Pisces at 12 degrees and backs into a couple of degrees of Aquarius. So it will still have some Aquarius energy even when we're in Pisces season.
In fact, I'm not sure. Let's see, right now, are we Mercury? Where's Mercury? Oh, yeah. Okay. No, And not to get fearful about retrogrades, just to let people know, because there's a lot of hype about that. Life has a rewind process. Just as people, we reflect, and we sometimes need to readjust our tempo, and if nothing else, that might be necessary. So it's happening.
I like emphasizing the RE.
Yes.
With retrogrades, revisiting, recycling, reintegrating, revisiting.
I'm thinking of Aretha Franklin, R-E-S-P-C-T, respect. You got to respect the redo.
But sometimes it's even better second time.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
They say, yes, exactly. There is that.
Well, Mercury goes retrograde 3 or 4 times a year, so it happens fairly often.
Exactly. It's like, and that's a wonderful thing. And it's been wonderful to join you. This is with Liz Muschett and Sara Stromley. We are the Moonbeam team. And I'm Sue Rose Minahan. And this is February 8th. Thank you so much, our wonderful audience. Do check us out and subscribe. We would love to update you on all the events. Okie doke. We'll see you again.
Thank you for listening to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 6 p.m. to continue finding your roots in the stars.